Hi, my name is Roxane Webster.
And I'm Keith Alba.
We
And
are
we're
with
the
My
partners
Home
of my
Team.
home team. No, we're the partners of my home team here in Denver, Colorado, real estate agents. And this is our video blog.
The Honest Hour.
Right? All right, we endeavor to bring you real estate topics, real estate adjacent topics in a no spin environment, right? No agenda on our side. We're telling you how it looks. Well, maybe a little bit of spin, but that's just rocks playing in a chair. But really just wanted to get an honest opinion out there to the world in terms of what we're seeing and things you need to be thinking about.
And this is a part of, you're going to be hearing us talking a lot about two topics this year. One is senior real estate in general, because look at all this gray hair and look at Keith's hairline is receded to his chin.
Gravity.
Around the top and down to the chin. That's a full rotation.
Right off the back and down here. That's where all my hair lies.
Onto the back. And the other one is probate. And probate, we're seeing, I mean, both Keith and I have lost parents, siblings. We're at a time, not only in our lives, but we're kind of at a time demographically, generationally, where we're seeing a lot of people passing away. So the topics of how one deals with, grief aside and all the emotional stuff, there are physical things that need to be done when somebody passes away to pay off all of their debts, and then transfer whatever wealth they have to the people that they intended that wealth to be passed to. Or if they didn't do a will, how the state decides that that wealth should be transferred. So and that whole process roughly we call probate. So we're going to be touching these topics because they're important. More and more people are dealing with them right now, and not many folks understand it all.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like two things, right? The senior services is leading up to that event, how to protect yourself, how to protect your assets, things that can be done prior to passing, to ensure that your assets and stuff are protected and go where you intend them to go. That's one side of it. And then the other side, as Rox was saying, is, the post passing and, things that need to be done after that in order to wrap up the estate and close it out. So
one of the things that we see as an immediacy, right, is not all of these houses are vacant, right? Some of them, a surviving spouse is still living there, but many of them are, right? So we wanted to talk a little bit about, regardless of what timeline you have on dealing with the estate portion of it and the legalities of probate and dispersing stuff, you've got a physical asset, a house that is vacant, and vacant houses don't like being vacant. So we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can protect that asset while you are going through the process that you need to of figuring all this other stuff out. The last thing in the world we want is for something to go wrong with that house in addition to everything else, when a few simple moves could have prevented that.
absolutely. The home in many instances is going to be the most valuable asset that is a part of that estate. And so it really comes down to asset preservation, right? What needs to be done in order to preserve that asset? And as a personal representative, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the estate, right? And so if you're not taking these actions up front and something dramatic and unfortunate happens to that asset, I'd hate to see what would come of that. And maybe personal funds coming out of the PR's account in order to repair the property because of a failure to fulfill their duties is a potential situation. So you don't want to do that, but really it's about securing that property and
I kind of think of three categories, right? One is protecting it legally. One is protecting it physically. And then the other one is urgent maintenance and repair items that would prevent the property from losing value. Am I forgetting anything?
No, I think those kind of major categories that those.
Yeah. So if we look at legal protection, right? Number one, if it's vacant, what if the neighborhood hoodlums decide to break in and start engaging in elaborate business activities?
We've seen it, and we've talked about the scammers out there and stuff in the past, right? They target vacant properties. I've heard stories, horror stories of agents that have been marketing, vacant properties. Somebody's scouting through Zillow or one of those other sites that have the listings on there, and they're looking specifically for vacant houses. They'll go in at night, they'll break a window, gain access into the property. They open up the garage door, back their truck in, close the garage door, spend as much time as they need loading up the appliances and anything of value that's in that vacant property, open up the garage door, and they're gone, right? And so they're just working away and doing those things. So yeah, securing that property is vital.
Making sure all the windows closed and are locked, making sure that if there's any security cameras, they're turned on, right? And if not, maybe consider newspapers, canceling the newspapers so it isn't as obvious. Who's picking up the mail so it isn't pouring out the mailbox, right?
These are all things that these people with ill intent look for, right? If they spot that, it's a good indication that the property's vacant. They may scout it out for an evening or two, no lights come on, nothing happens in the property, they don't see anybody come or go from it. Boom, that's their target, right? They know that that's vacant, there's nobody in there, and they're going to have a good opportunity to potentially pull anything of value out of that. Could be the appliances. We go back to the short sale days, Rox, and stories of people cutting
plumbing,
copper out of the houses and scrap metaling that, pulling electrical wiring out of it, stripping it down, selling the wires for money. So just because a property is vacant doesn't necessarily mean there's nothing of value in there that these guys with the ill intent are going to want to get their hands on.
Yeah. And let's say that we do get unlucky and somebody does break in and get the appliances. Let's make sure you've got the right insurance so that that damage is corrected and paid for by an insurance company, not by the estate, right?
Right. Keep in mind, this is not your insurance policy that's put in place. This is, the deceased that has put this in place, and you don't know what the terms of those are. There are some insurance policies that are out there that carve out protection for vacant properties, saying, hey, listen, if nobody's there, nobody's taking care of the property, nobody's looking at it on a regular basis,
Not our problem.
We're not going to pay it. So an option there would be to talk to those insurance companies and get a vacant property rider added to that thing. But ultimately, you got to check, right? What is covered, what is not, figure out what that policy says, and then plug the holes.
That's right. And we can sit down with you. We've got some pretty comprehensive lists of, hey, this is your to-do list in the first few weeks. This is your to-do list moving forward, right? But as far as just the physical preservation of that property, checking the insurance, making sure that the house is secure, and we've got resources to help you with all of those things.
So the second part that you were talking about there, Rox, is securing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be physically going around, making sure the windows, locks on those windows work, potentially putting in some sort of a cheater bar in those tracks for the sliding glass door or any first floor door or windows.
Changing the locks, because who knows who has keys to that house.
Right. Yeah. Just making sure going around, and almost you have to put yourself into a criminal's mindset and say, okay, where are the vulnerabilities? If I was going to try and get into this house, where would I do it? Right.
That's right.
And it's going to be the easy stuff, right? There's not a lot of them that are bringing ladders and setting them up and crawling up to the second story. Absolutely make sure that those are secured. But if there's stairs going up to a walkout deck, right? Yeah, you've got some additional second story windows that may have some accessibility to it. So.
And I think an important part of securing that property as well, often we're dealing with a property that the personal representative has never lived in or hasn't lived in for years. I think it's a great plan to go knock on the doors of a couple of the neighbors, exchange contact information, explain who you are, and say, hey, could you keep an eye on the house and let me know if you're seeing anything bizarre or strange, right? We had one of those recently where a neighbor called me because there was a for sale sign in the yard to tell me that the fire alarm was going off in the house, right? Well, we got right over. I don't know what set it off. It was fine by the time we got there, but that house could have been burnt to the ground before the seller, the personal representative would have known it if it hadn't been for that neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a personal representative that lives in another state, and in trying to do this remotely, having boots on the ground here locally is
We
going to
can
be
help.
fine.
We
We
can
can
help with that stuff.
deal with that, right? Our whole intent behind starting this business and going towards that senior services and the probate side of it is really to come alongside this generation that raised us, and kind of brought us through. And it's kind of a way to give back, I would say, huh, Rex?
That's right. That's right.
And then
Um,
the final category, right? We got to talk
yeah,
about securing from deterioration.
from deterioration. I'd say the number one enemy to any house is water.
H2O.
H2O, right? And I'll tell you, it's you may not even be aware. I mean, the biggest culprit we see at this time of year is deep freezes and frozen pipes, right? And there are ways to address those things. It may be depending on how long we're looking at the house being, is the furnace on? Was it turned on? Or is that house going to freeze up like an ice cube and take the pipes with it, leaving the cabinet doors open so that warm air can get under those sinks? Making sure that the sprinkler system has been winterized, right? Or perhaps the entire house winterized, where they blow out all the water from the pipes, put some antifreeze into the plumbing system, and completely shut down, pull the water out of it. That right there, having replumbed a house that was frozen like an ice cube last winter,
Yeah.
and ours was a ranch with an easily accessible crawl space, right? And it was 30-some thousand, right? You get into a 2-story where there's water going down I mean, you can be looking at $100,000 before there's a speck of damage to the drywall.
Yeah, man, and there's so much complication in that stuff. If it's a house prior to 1978, right, there may be lead-based paint in that. And so now if you got to go in and do some repairs or tear out some drywall in order to do the repairs for that water damage that's there, you need somebody that's lead-based paint certified in the mitigation.
Asbestos, same stuff. I mean, it's a
Same deal. Lots of asbestos can be found in old drywall that's there. If the ceilings have the popcorn that is on there, there's a decent chance that might contain asbestos as a part of it, which as soon as there's a problem, they're going to have to test for it. And if they test for it, now you're going to have to address it. And all of a sudden, costs just skyrocket, through there, because you got to get professionals to deal with it.
Simple, easy things to fix up front,
An
right?
ounce of prevention.
Ounce of prevention. That's exactly.
Prevention. But these are things that as a PR, you may not be thinking of, right? You're mired in grief. Your loved one, a friend, somebody that's close to you that has appointed you in this role is passed.
That's right.
That's tough. It's not an easy thing. And now all of a sudden you've got all these additional duties and responsibilities and things that are, put on top of you. That again is we see a void in this area. We want to fill that void with resources.
You can't handle this all by yourself. It's too much.
There's no commitment to it, right? If we end up getting a listing, wonderful. If we can help you as a personal representative navigate this and get through it to the end in a satisfactory way where everybody's happy, we also say wonderful to that.
That's right. That's right. We've been saying for years, and it's the truth, good people is good business, right? Yeah. If we can give you some good advice, some good resources, some good vendors, help you preserve the asset, you get to an outcome, one of the kids ends up living in the house. Okay. We absolutely know that if we've given you help now, that turns into business for us down the line. We don't care what it looks like today.
Well, we'll take the karma points too, right? Either way, it can be business down the road, or, just that warm and fuzzy feeling that we get knowing that we helped somebody in a time of need get through a difficult situation and the challenge in their life. We're comfortable with that as our win as well.
Yeah, yeah. There's one other thing when we talk about preservation of property. and we'll talk more about this in a further, once in a while, you got a big mess on your hands at that house, right? I've been watching hoarder videos. Nobody wants to say it, right? Let's say your parents, your loved ones are not hoarders, but they have accumulated,
Yeah.
right? At very least, we're looking at a household that's accumulated, 20 or 30 or 40 years of stuff in it, right? So a part of securing that property too is about making sure that there's nothing in that house that's going to further damage the property, right? Are all of the appliances cleaned out? Are anything that could turn into a mouse infestation or another pest infestation, have those things been contended with? And we've got folks who will help us with all of that stuff. Did somebody's grandkids slip in there and smoke some ganja in the basement, right? We can help with all of that stuff.
Been there, done that, right? We've already been faced with some of those types of challenges, and so
Yeah,
this may be new for you. It's not new for us. We have an extensive list of people that we vetted that we know can help and will do a quality job. So
yeah.
reach out, let us know how you can help. We're sorry for your loss, but there is assistance.
There's some help.